Kirk Frost has finally broken his silence, and what he revealed about love and hip-hop is shaking the entire reality TV world. For years, fans have watched the drama, the betrayals, and the shocking twists unfold on screen, with Kirk and the other cast members often at the center of it all. But according to Kirk, everything we thought we knew about the show was a lie. From backstage manipulations to cast members being forced into explosive confrontations, Kirk is now exposing the dark truth about what really goes on behind the cameras. Kirk's revelation is nothing short of a bombshell. Sources close to him have said that he's been holding on to this truth for years, afraid of what might happen if he spoke out. After enduring cheating scandals, public humiliation, and brutal backlash from fans, he has finally decided that he is done protecting the show. He's ready to spill everything, the lies, the betrayal, and the power moves happening behind the scenes. The question now is, why did he choose to speak out now? And what exactly happened behind the scenes that led him to this point? In a dimly lit room, with his expression serious and almost somber, Kirk sat down, ready to tell the truth. He took a deep breath and exhaled slowly before saying the words that would forever change the perception of love and hip-hop. It was never real, none of it. Fans had speculated for years that reality TV wasn't as real as it seemed, but hearing Kirk Frost himself admit it was like a thunderbolt to the entire industry. The show that had made him famous, the platform that had turned his personal life into entertainment for millions, was all carefully controlled, manipulated, and scripted in ways he never imagined when he first signed on. But what exactly pushed him to speak out now? Why was Kirk Frost finally ready to reveal the truth after all these years of playing along with the show's narrative? It all started with Kirk noticing something strange happening behind the scenes. At first, it was small things. Producers asking him to repeat certain lines, encouraging him to react a certain way, and suggesting how he should respond during emotional moments. At first, he brushed it off, thinking it was just part of making good television. But soon, the situations became more extreme, and Kirk realized things were much more sinister than he ever imagined. There was one night in particular that changed everything for him. The cameras were rolling, the lights were bright, and Kirk had just walked into what he thought was a normal scene. But something felt off. Rashida, his wife, was standing there, arms crossed, with anger in her eyes. But Kirk could tell it wasn't real anger. It was the kind of forced tension that only happens when someone is being coached on what to say. He later found out that before he even walked into the room, producers had already spoken to Rashida, telling her exactly how to react. They had fed her lines, planted ideas in her head, and turned a simple conversation into a full-blown argument designed to generate drama and raise the ratings. But that wasn't even the worst part. The moment Kirk started defending himself, something shocking happened. A producer in the middle of the scene stepped in and said, "No, say it like this." The cameras cut, and Kirk was left stunned. He had just realized that this wasn't reality TV. This was a scripted setup. The producers weren't just capturing drama, they were creating it. They needed conflict, and they were willing to push the cast to their breaking points to get it. Kirk couldn't believe what was happening. For years, he had been manipulated into being the bad guy, while the producers orchestrated every single fight, every betrayal, and every emotional breakdown. But what Kirk overheard next made him question whether staying on the show was even worth it anymore. He was sitting in his dressing room one night, staring at himself in the mirror, when he overheard a conversation that sent a chill down his spine. "Just tell Rashida we have something on Kirk," one of the producers whispered. To a crew member, Kirk froze. What did they mean by something on him? He thought. What were they planning? It didn't take long for Kirk to realize that the producers weren't just manipulating scenes anymore. They were creating fake scandals. And this time, they were going to use his name to pull off one of the biggest betrayals yet. For years, Kirk had been painted as the villain on Love and Hip Hop. His storylines had almost always centered around his mistakes, his cheating scandals, and his drama with Rashida. No matter what he did, no matter how much he tried to fix things, the show always found a way to drag him back into the same narrative. And now, the producers were planning something even bigger. This time, they weren't going to rely on old drama. They were going to manufacture a new scandal altogether. Kirk had to find out what it was. So, he did something he never thought he would have to do. He started spying on his own show. Late at night, after the cameras were off, Kirk began hanging around the production crew, listening in on their conversations, and watching how things were set up. What he discovered shook him to his core. The producers weren't just manipulating the cast, they were paying people to lie on camera. He overheard a conversation between one of the show's top producers and a new female cast member. She had only been on set for a few weeks, but now she was about to become a major part of Kirk's storyline. The producer said to her, "You just have to say you had an affair with him." Kirk's heart nearly stopped. An affair with him? He didn't even know this woman. He had barely spoken to her, yet here was a producer offering her money to lie on camera and claim she had been secretly involved with Kirk behind Rashida's back. At that moment, everything became clear. The show didn't just thrive on drama, it created it. The cheating scandals, the explosive fights, the broken relationships, they were all fabricated. The producers had been controlling the narrative all along, and Kirk was nothing more than a pawn in their game. For years, he had blamed himself for everything. He had carried the guilt of being the bad guy, the unfaithful husband, the man who couldn't keep his family together. But now, Kirk realized that the show had never given him a chance. They needed a villain, and he was their perfect target. But Kirk was done playing their game. If they thought they could control him forever, they were wrong. This time, he wasn't going to sit back and let them destroy his name. He was ready to fight back. But what happened next? No one saw it coming. Kirk sat in his car one night, gripping the steering wheel as his mind raced. The revelation was too much to process. For years, he had been the villain on Love and Hip Hop, the man who couldn't stay loyal, the husband who always found himself in the middle of a scandal. But now, Kirk knew the truth. The producers had been controlling the narrative all along. He had to do something about it. But the question was, how far were the producers willing to go? If they were already paying people to lie on camera, what else had they done behind the scenes? Kirk's anger grew with every passing moment. He couldn't sit back any longer. He had proof, recordings that exposed the manipulation, the staged fights, the pressure to fake drama for ratings. If he released them, people would finally see the truth. But Kirk also knew that releasing the recordings would mean risking everything: his career, his reputation, and possibly even his safety. After everything he had seen and been through, there was no turning back. He couldn't let them control his life any longer. The next morning, Kirk made a decision that would change everything. He confronted the producers directly. He walked into the studio earlier than usual, the set quiet as only a few crew members were getting ready for the day. But Kirk wasn't there to film. He was there to get the truth. He found one of the executive producers, a man he had known for years, but now saw in a completely different light. "Tell me the truth," Kirk said, his voice steady but filled with tension. "How much of this is real?" The producer barely blinked. "Come on, Kirk. You've been here long enough. You already know the answer to that." Kirk's jaw clenched. "So, the new girl? You're paying her to lie about me?" The producer sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not about lying, Kirk. It's about giving the audience what they want. They want drama. They want chaos. And right now, you're the perfect storyline." Kirk felt a surge of rage. "You're ruining my life for ratings." The producer scoffed. "Kirk, we made you. Without this show, you're just another guy trying to stay relevant. The scandals, the cheating rumors, the fights, that's why people care about you. Without us, you're nothing." Kirk's hands curled into fists, but he forced himself to stay calm. This wasn't just about him anymore. If the producers had fabricated his drama, how many others had they manipulated? How many cast members had been trapped in this cycle of lies and deception? And then something else hit him. What if this was bigger than just the cast? What if the entire Love and Hip Hop franchise was built on the same lies? Kirk knew he needed proof, real proof. That's when he came up with a plan. If they wanted a storyline, he was about to give them one, but on his terms. The next time he was called into film, Kirk secretly recorded everything. The conversations with producers, the moments when they tried to push a narrative, the times they whispered instructions into the cast members' ears. And what he captured was worse than he could have ever imagined. One producer was caught on tape telling Rashida exactly how to react before Kirk even walked into the room. Another clip showed a fake argument between two cast members who were actually good friends, but the producers had convinced them to act like enemies. And then there was the worst recording of all, a private conversation where a producer admitted that some fights were staged from the very beginning. "We create the drama before the season even starts," the voice said. "We plant ideas, push certain cast members to say things, and if we need to, we make things up." Kirk listened to the playback in disbelief. This was it. This was the proof he needed. But now he had to make a decision. If he exposed this, he could destroy the show. He could take down the producers and finally clear his name. But at the same time, he knew what that meant. The network had power, connections, and influence. If he went against them, they wouldn't just let it slide. They would do whatever it took to protect the show. Just as Kirk was debating his next move, he got a phone call that changed everything. A deep voice on the other end of the line said just one sentence: "You don't want to do this, Kirk." And then the line went dead. Kirk's heart pounded. Who was that? A producer? Someone from the network? How did they know what he was planning? Had they already found out that he was recording? Kirk realized just how deep this went. This wasn't just about reality TV anymore. This was about control, power, and protecting the empire they had built. And Kirk was their biggest threat. The question now was, what was he going to do about it? Kirk sat frozen, staring at his phone. The voice on the other end had been calm, cold, and the message was clear. Someone didn't want the truth coming out, and they were willing to do whatever it took to silence him. He had been in this industry long enough to know an indirect threat when he heard one. Rashida saw the tension on his face and grabbed his arm. "Kirk, what is it? Who was that?" she asked, concern filling her voice. He exhaled sharply, trying to keep his voice steady. "They know what I'm doing. They told me to stop before it's too late." Rashida's eyes widened. "Kirk, this isn't just about a show anymore. You're messing with powerful people." Kirk knew she was right. This was bigger than he had expected. But after everything he had been forced to do for the sake of reality TV, he couldn't back down now. "That's exactly why I have to do this," Kirk said firmly. "I've let them control my life for too long. I won't let them scare me into silence." Rashida's fear flickered across her face, but she nodded. "Then we do it together." Kirk's head snapped up. "What?" "You're not in this alone," she said firmly. "If you're going to expose them, I'll back you up. I've been on this show just as long as you have. If I speak out too, people will listen." Kirk felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. They were finally on the same page, and together they took on the fight that would change their lives and the reality TV world forever.